I'm super excited to talk today about the topic because over the last few years we've seen an ecosystem of various blockchain emerging and layers on top that are increasingly interconnected also, and that's leading to increasing scale, increasing specialization. But there are still a couple of challenges left to be solved, especially centering around security. We're pushing the envelope on like removing single points of failures, um, improving UX, developers experience, and super excited to talk about some of the leading builders that are pushing the boundaries on the multi-chain interoperability stack. Let's start with a brief round of intros. Maybe I'll keep it very brief. I'm Felix, Green, partner at Greenfield Capital. We're a crypto fund investing in Europe and beyond across DeFi infrastructure and consumer. And please tell us about your name, project, and role.
Yeah, thank you. I am Alex Glukowski. I'm the founder of ZK At ZK we're scaling Ethereum with their knowledge proofs and building verifiable blockchain infrastructure for the multi-chain world, all connected with integrity of ZK.
Hi, everyone. I'm Andre, or Andre from LeFi, as many know me. I am the head of DeFi for the company, which basically means that I oversee the whole go-to-market, sales, B2B expansion. And what we're doing is that we provide an API that offers best price execution on chain. So in short, we aggregate different liquidity networks, bridges, DEXs, DEX aggregators, solvers, all into one API. And we offer this API to the biggest enterprise companies in the space.
That's one. Hey guys, I'm Ozzy Amir. I lead up strategy at the Wormhole Foundation. So Wormhole, for those that don't know, we're an interoperability infra for connecting disparate chains. So we connect over 35 blockchains. We've sent over a billion messages cross-chain and moved hundreds of billions of dollars to secure as much in multi-chain assets. So, very vested in the multi-chain world.
Cool. Unfortunately, Yago of Bitcoin OS couldn't make it to this panel because he has some travel delay. He will still hold his keynote later today at 5:30. But couldn't make it to this panel, unfortunately. But let's just dive right in. Each of you solve a different problem in the multi-chain stack, be it liquidity routing, protocol messaging, or building cross-chain network design. What is the most important pain point that you're currently solving, and why does it matter?
Yeah. So for us, I think a key pain point is fungibility of assets when they're deployed across multiple chains and multiple VMs as well. So if you're looking for like a burn mint standard that talks to 7 or 8 or 9 different virtual machines, you have to figure out how that all looks and how you're going to make sure the verification layer that talks to that as well it works in a way that makes sense for deployment, distribution on the front ends, and things like last mile relaying and execution. So really making sense of the distribution layer, I think, is really important right now. And then obviously the verification layer is another story. So I'd say that's one of the key pain points that we're looking to solve externally. Internally, maybe it's we're accelerating the way that we expand networks as well. Because traditionally this has been something that's challenged in the interop space.
One of the biggest pain points that we started with, and we're still seeing this in the ecosystem, and I'll get to the point why this is still a pain point, is definitely liquidity fragmentation. So the incentives in the space are just not aligned for the users. They're aligned for the builders and the VCs who are investing in the builders, but the users are just facing too much liquidity fragmentation. So what does that mean? It means we have the layer ones that as an execution layer, we have the scaling solutions, and then we have different dApp chains, which are more modular, and they're dApp specific for their own use cases. However, for the user, using different, chain solutions and different interop solutions, it just gets a lot more fragmented. And, how do we want to onboard a billion users when they're not even sure which interop standard is better than the other. And it's, like most of them are pretty sophisticated. So it's hard to form an opinion like day one on why would you choose one over the other. So we're solving this liquidity fragmentation by having the routes, the railway system of connecting all of them into one unified solution, and offering this solution B2B and also B2C, so it's easier for everyone to move money across chains.
And we're working on a similar problem of liquidity and UX fragmentation, but we're taking a different approach, going from within the ecosystem and the roll-up stack. We believe that there is a potential to solve something, to solve interop within the boundaries of a single ecosystem, like zk-Sync Elastic Network, in a completely different way. Like we call it universal interop, and it includes full trustlessness, where you like full verifiability. Or you don't add new trust assumptions to on top of what you have for the chain. You don't have capital costs because you don't have to balance liquidity. You don't have to maintain liquidity reserves on different chains. You can just mint and burn natively. And most importantly, universality, meaning should work for any token and any action, not just for most liquid tokens. So it should work for NFTs. It should work for long tail of some niche tokens, with full composability, with atomic cross-chain calls. This is something that ZK Interop is uniquely positioned to solve.
Super cool. Thanks for that. Yeah, that ties into my next question. Actually, you touched on it already. That we are actually seeing like cross-chain native network design and unified interoperability within that ecosystem, and that enables, as far as I understand, synchronous composability. Maybe there are other approaches that the other panels want to touch upon, but I'm also curious about what are really the use cases that really require synchronous composability, and maybe there are other workarounds that don't require it for many users.
So I want to clarify, what we're building does not allow synchronous composability out of the box. It allows atomic composability, but not synchronous. So you can imagine that there are two blockchains. You start a transaction on one, the transaction finishes there, and you kind of like send the funds there in the air. And then at a different point of time, with very low latency, like within seconds, it lands on a second blockchain and something happens there. And it either happens fully and you swap, or you do whatever action you want to perform, or it completely fails and then the entire transaction is reverted and sent back in a third kind of step of this transaction. The atomicity means that everything either happens or fails, not not fragmented, but it's still asynchronous and spread out in time. I think that synchronous composability is a massive enabler, but it's really hard to do across chain without something like shared validity sequencer. And I don't know of any solutions that actually implement it successfully. Because if you do shared sequencing, what this means is you essentially concatenate all of your chains into one huge chain. In which case, if you have technology to do this, then just build this one parallel chain.
Yeah, but maybe we get already a lot of the advantages with atomic composability, actually, and because you don't have the risk that the subsequent actions that you want to have to be performed together are not happening. So it either confirms altogether or it reverts. So you actually have complete trust minimization on that front.
Yeah, I think synchronous composability is something you have to give up if you want to maintain like decentralization and keep a proper set of disparate blockchains doing their own things going on. But we can get pretty close. And as Alex mentioned, you're not going to all use the same shared sequencer. I don't think those types of solutions, they've been tried. That's maybe not the future. I definitely agree with the ZK interop route where it's essentially atomic in that sense. You can generate consensus proofs or proofs of execution and state changes on a chain, and then you can be able to verify that. What's also interesting is like what's taking off is co-processors as well. So looking at like off-chain execution for the purpose of like somewhat atomicity as well, and save like gas efficiency. You can execute programs and contracts that might cost millions or billions of gas off chain, and then send the proof over to a disparate chain as well. So maybe we will see the same issues that we've seen with shared sequencing when you look at like who runs the prover networks for the co-processors and how that works. But I think solutions like client-side proving, which bring benefits for both like efficiency but also for privacy, can be really, really interesting as well. So maybe we'll see that. And yeah, I mean, I love ZK Sync. I love your guys' approach as well with the with the circuits and everything. So yeah, I think we'll start to see that take off as well very soon.
Yeah, I think we all agree somehow that atomic composability scales better in the long run if we're thinking about what the users care and how they want to approach multi-chain. If we would live in a perfect ideal world, then yeah, just living in the same blockchain and having direct finality. But if you want to move money, from one blockchain to the other, then it's just not scalable at the pace that we want to go, like keep up with TradFi. Like we've probably seen that even bridges right now, they're becoming more and more centralized. Do the users care? Well, not really. And we see that in the data. We're processing over 3 billion per month, and we see which bridges are winning over the others. And we never push different bridges to the users. It's always, the best bridge and the best quote. However, we do offer other options. So, the users are free to choose whichever option they want. And we do see kind of a shift towards more centralized solutions, fortunately or unfortunately. I say fortunately because the industry is maturing, but unfortunately because of the whole, cyberpunk ethos that we used to have 5 or 7 years ago.
But I think there's no contradiction fundamentally or inherently that stops us from being cypherpunk and doing great UX. So the reason centralized solutions are winning is because they offer better products overall, better UX, better quotes, but better pricing, because they can maintain larger pools of liquidity, etc. So if we can if we can offer something comparable or cheaper, faster, lesser risk, which again translates into cheaper because you don't have to take the costs of the risks into the transaction fees, then this will win. It's like, we tried PGP in the past to do encrypted communication between emails, and now even cryptographers cannot use it because it's too hard, too complicated. But then someone comes up with something like WhatsApp, and you have end-to-end encryption, very easily usable, and it takes off, and billions of people use it. So
I think it's a natural process, right? Like if you look at the time it takes like EVM to reach hard finality right now, for sure there's going to be natural rent seeking. It's like great, we can fill your orders faster than finality. Yeah, we can do it even more capital efficiently if we solve your transaction for you. That's great, fine. Users love that. That's fantastic. I think if you start to look towards like where we move slowly and together as a whole, if we're like, okay, single slot finality, or 12-second finality, that's great. And then it's like, oh, would you rather wait? You can wait 1 second, or you can wait 12 and have it done more safely, more efficiently. It's got a proof attached to it. You can generate consensus proofs of the alt VMs as well. That's great. A lot of the alt VMs are, there's some non-deterministic chains that have like 1 second finality times as well. And, even going down below like to 150, 100 milliseconds as well. So I think we'll get comparable UX in the next couple of years using like, proof-driven verification mechanisms. So I think that's going to start to eat into the, maybe the intent-based market in a way.
Comey, you already touched upon a bunch of aspects that would make UX much better. I guess currently users do choose to a large extent the best UX, maybe the cheapest routes, fastest speeds. Like besides finality, maybe that's one of the most important things. Fast finality. What are things that need to change to make the cross-chain UX feel really seamless?
You should not need to bridge at all. We should embrace this Internet of Value paradigm. Like on the internet, you have the websites, and you go to any website from any other by one click. It should be similar with what we're building in Web3. You go to an app, you have assets on some of the chain, like on one chain. You probably are conscious on which chain you have the assets, just like you choose your bank, right? But you should not need to care where a merchant banks is located when you use a credit card to pay. And similarly, when you connect to an application, like you want to do a swap or whatever, it should not matter on which chain it is. You connect, you do the action, and the action happens underneath, like built into the wallet. I think the best API, the closest API to this API standard, to this reality we have today is Intense. And I am very optimistic that we can optimize underneath the bridging infrastructure under the hood to utilize the intent interface to make everything else work in this one-click scenario.
So LeFi also runs Jumper, which is by DeFi Lemma's standards, the number one cross-chain aggregator. So we're seeing hundreds of thousands of users. We're seeing billions monthly in recurring volume and users. And we've only done one thing for the past 3.5 years, which was just cross-chain swaps. We haven't added anything else on top of yet that could offer more fancy products. We're obviously looking into that. So we have like an evergreen loyalty pass, which is like a point system, so all the new chains can incentivize users to come to their chains. We're gonna have like an page, but for now it's still about offering the best cross-chain solution out there for any token standard to any token standard, any token on any chain to any token on any chain. And we realize that users are sticky if you offer them the best price quote. So that's why I wasn't really in agreement with the fact that intent system will like the volumes that intent systems have right now will diminish. I think it will just increase more, because we're seeing based on the data, and the data is like 1 year and a half or at maximum 2, that intent-based systems do grab a bigger market share and a bigger market share, mostly because they have faster finality and sometimes cheaper quotes.
I agree with you guys both, exactly. So there's two layers that that are both like tending towards like full commodity. There's the user level. It's like the distribution layer. I truly think you can't truly commoditize user attention. So like it's just going to be the thing that the user wants to go and click at the end of the day. And then the lowest layer is the verification layer. And so both will tend towards commodity. And then it's about having the stickiest front ends and embracing the innovation. You can as and when it comes, you can go with it naturally and hope that like market forces and having just enough players to create just enough competitivity will keep driving the innovation at just the right pace. Or you can try to stick your foot out a little bit and try to bring everyone along. What's going to solve it right now? Yeah, I think where everything's going is good. I think like wallet interfaces, maybe there'll be like more of a refresh on the front ends. I think things are getting just to that level, enabled by solutions like Intents, definitely, which give you this UX that you can actually build proper front end interfaces and experiences from and on. So I think that's great. I think unifying the verification standards is ongoing work at the moment as well. I think we've all sort of touched and tackled that. For the disparate tokens. So I think bringing that all together, we're definitely seeing a lot of the use cases as well slowly change from being it's like 70% are token transfers today for cross-chain. But that number is slowly, the number of arbitrary messaging and data-driven use cases are slowly increasing as well. So we'll start to see more pull-based interop as well, and there are more arbitrary data use cases, more things like tokenized funds, more types of functionality and features come through that will help.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, especially for the intent-based bridging, but also for other types, we are reliant on liquidity. Solvers need liquidity, for example, and token bridging is still the largest share, as you just said, and we need liquidity for that. So, what are ways that you guys are supporting liquidity, and yeah, how scalable is liquidity currently in your ecosystems or generally across the whole blockchain space, and are we ready for large institutional flows?
So for us, since we're not a bridge solution, we're building an ecosystem of L2s. Once we have this native interop within the ecosystem, then the liquidity question becomes irrelevant for moving funds within the ecosystem. But it still matters for connecting to the outside world. Like if we have ZK Sync chains we want users to be able to connect to them from Base, Arbitrum, Solana, from basically anywhere. And to achieve that, what we will be able to do is just to have one large liquidity reserve on a single chain. Could be zk Sync Era, our default most decentralized chain in the ecosystem, and then it can have all types of bridges. It will have LeFi integration, Warhol integration, other bridges with relatively large liquidity in this one place, which can be incentivized by the community governance, for example. And this will then allow to have the connection from, let's say, Base to Era, and then to whatever app chain is building on zk Sync, making it seamless for them to get users from everywhere.
Yeah, it's actually great to hear that, and I'm hearing that more often from all the ecosystems, because right now we're seeing that interop within the ecosystem is solved, or as you said, you're solvable. It's solvable, and you're definitely heading towards that way. But you still don't want to be, a fragmented ecosystem in a corner without having connection or poaching users from all the other ecosystems, because you might have, like better DeFi or something more attractive on zk Sync. And we've seen this with Optimism, which they have bridged the bridge page, bridge.gg. We're now working with Arbitrum on powering their cross-chain swaps on the Arbitrum page, Mode, Linea. They all realize that, okay, we need to tap into the user base of the other ecosystems. And, we already have our own bridging solution, which is the native bridge. However, why wouldn't we allow for faster bridging from the other chains to our own chain? So I think that, we're all converging into this era of true multi-chain, in which we're not, all fighting for the same users. Is like, okay, let's have the users in a big pool and let them choose where they want to go, instead of building bigger and bigger fences for our own ecosystem. So that's, I think it's is the right direction in which we're heading now.
Yeah, agree with the guys. Yeah, I think liquidity fragmentation and solver inventory management is like an issue, like the guys touched on. One thing, say, we're doing there at the moment is we have a settlement solution which uses a hub and spoke model for liquidity, so the solvers can manage their liquidity on one chain. And then be able to bridge from that chain with very fast finality to the other chain. And we use like a base layer for that, a base asset, which is a base stable that we don't control at the moment. But then the next step for that is bringing in our open token burn and mint framework, NTT, and allowing NTT assets to also then be used as the liquidity in that, with the solvers all managing the liquidity from one chain only. So rather than having, you can launch a token, and then if you can convince one solver to take on 20k of liquidity, and if that was used at maximum efficiency from like the slowest chain, let's say Ethereum mainnet, you can be bringing on $2 million of flows a day with just 20k of initial liquidity with that model, rather than the solvers having to manage like long tail token inventories across chains. I think that's one. The other one is things like solver delegation, so like improvements in the tech, so being able to like delegate to solver pools efficiently. I know Harden, the Across team have done some experimenting around that. I know the Enoma team is doing really interesting stuff around intents and this stuff as well. So like this next gen of intent solutions, I think will start to look really interesting.
How important is speed in that relation? I guess on the one hand side, from the end user perspective, in getting, I guess, cross-chain interactions fronted from solvers, but also the back end from solvers rebalancing. I guess if you have lower latencies, faster finality, you need less capital, as you just touched upon, to actually support a certain amount of volume. So bringing down latency and finality probably just boosts the amount of throughput we can have.
Yeah, our experience is users will always prefer very short, like the solutions that feel almost instant. They will always prefer it, even if it's significantly more costly than something there you have to wait 10 seconds. And this is why, by the way, I'm really excited. We just announced the launch of Airbender last week, which is our new virtual machine and zkVM, and it's the fastest RISC-V zkVM prover in the world so far by large margin, and it can prove like an average Ethereum block in 30 seconds on a single GPU. More importantly, with more GPUs, it can prove zk sync blocks in under 1 second. So if in the demo, in this announcement, there is a little demo app on the new testnet powered by Airbender, and transactions are confirming, like, all in all, from submission through inclusion in the block, proving the block, and confirming the block, including this in the settlement layer, in under 1 second. So this really enables the ZK-based interop, because without that, like in the previous generations of ZK interop, you would have to wait like 10, 20, 30 seconds, like several minutes for the proofs to be generated on like beefy, huge GPU clusters. And this would not work at all. So you would have to inject some intermediate steps with some cryptoeconomic assumptions, some optimistic things, whatever, which would defeat the entire purpose. Then you have to go and integrate liquidity across all these chains. This would just not work. So it's, for the first time, it's possible for ZK interop to be instant.
That's really impressive, man. Congrats. I'm curious, does that include the compression, the ZK compression at the end to like a more portable, like a SNOC?
It's like the final proof is Fry based, so it's like 1 megabyte of data, but you can verify it instantly on a ZK settlement layer. So it does not matter, because you aggregate everything and then you do checkpoints on Ethereum every couple of minutes, which is fine.
Okay, yeah, cool. So you do like recursion every, like, so
exactly.
you recurse
between the chains. What matters is the inclusion in the settlement layer, in the shared settlement layer, which we call ZK Gateway for the ZK Sync Elastic network.
That's neat. Yeah. I'd love to learn some more about this. Yeah, I mean, I totally think the next gen ZK interop solutions are the way to go. Like, it's great we have the original RISC-V based like ZK VMs that have gotten us to a certain point in time, but I think Groth 16 only scales so far. I think people waiting around like for your SNOC compression to be like 80% of your proof generation time is like very, very tedious. And there are a lot more exciting things you can do that are maybe a lot safer in some ways as well. Not having to rely on certain assumptions and lose some efficiency gains. And yeah, that's an awesome approach. I'd love to learn more.
Yeah, I mean, as I mentioned, like we're seeing in the data how important speed is for the users, and that's why we also just acquire Catalyst, a bridge, and we're building our own solver. Not because we needed to, but whenever we're going to a new ecosystem, we have to knock at 20 bridges. Hey, are you gonna go there? And then at 50 dexes, are you gonna deploy day one? So we were just like, okay, until the others will come on the new chain, we just want to front run our own liquidity. It doesn't have to be the most efficient one. It just has to be fast and on day one. So 100% we realize that speed is very important for the users.
Very cool. Yeah, congrats also to your breakthrough, I guess, and congrats to the whole space also. I guess that we're making amazing progress here, having faster proving times than Ethereum block production, actually. We are nearly at the end. Let's do a quick lightning round. Give me your spiciest take on cross-chain interoperability.
Interop is solved. We don't need any new bridges.
I think there's like a story in the data. If you really look at the volumes of cross-chain flows and dig into them properly, I think that the data probably has a hidden story to tell about cross-chain flows and volumes.
Interesting. Now that's also mysterious. I will say that like a bold promise. I believe that optimistic scaling solutions for interop within optimistic rollup ecosystems won't fly. It's just not going to work. They will have to rely back on the traditional bridges until one day they upgrade to ZK. Nothing I have seen design-wise, what our team has analyzed, is capable of working. Just doesn't make sense.
Cool. Yeah. Thanks a lot, everyone. That was super interesting. Thanks for the panel.
Thank you.
Thank you all.